from the News Channel 5 Network and the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development. This is State of the Workforce.
And welcome to State of the Workforce. I'm Chris Cannon. Governor Bill Lee says the state with the workforce wins, and Tennessee is in it to win it. As we start 2025, we look ahead at who will take us to that victory. Our focus is economic and workforce development this episode. Deniece Thomas is the Commissioner of the Department of Labor and Workforce Development, and Stuart McWhorter is the Commissioner of Economic and Community Development. And Commissioners, thank you very much for spending this first week of the year with us here. And we're going to talk about looking ahead to 2025 in just a bit. But first, let's take a look back, Commissioner McWhorter, and some of the big wins for Tennessee in 2024, because there were a lot of them.
Yeah, there were. Well, first, thanks for having me. It's good to be here. It's always good to be with my fellow commissioner. And we do a lot together. I know we'll talk about this, but 2024 has been a great year for us, despite really a lot of headwinds, economically. The election played a factor in that as well. A lot of companies, just trying to wait to see what was going to happen, with the election. But generally speaking, Tennessee has done well. Just over 60 projects in 2024, close to a little over 8,000 net new jobs. But the headline catcher really is well over $6 billion of CapEx.
Wow.
Which, in a year of dealing with a lot of these headwinds in economically challenged times, that's a significant amount of capital investment that these companies are making here in our state.
So Tennessee's popularity isn't waning at all with the business community?
No, it's not. And there's been even some studies and surveys here recently showing, how well Tennessee has fared during these times. And generally speaking, if you look at the Southeast in general, our bordering states have all had a lot of success. So it's not just in Tennessee, although we think we're doing the best out of all of them, but we all benefit as a region, and my fellow commissioners in other states, we share notes and talk often about kind of what's going on, and they've all seen some success in their states as well. But yeah, I mean it's it's a good brand. It's been a strong brand for a long time, thanks to leadership that has led way before me, and our good job is just to continue to carry the message and recruit the best businesses that fit the Tennessee brand.
And that message and that recruitment means a lot of work for the Department of Labor and Workforce Development, because you can't have economic development without workforce development. Tell me about that tall task and how you handled that in 2024 moving into this new year.
Yeah, so thanks to the great work of Stuart and the economic development team, they keep us busy in labor and workforce development, which is a good problem to have. States would love to be in our shoes. So, each time there's an announcement of an expansion or a new company landing in Tennessee, it's an exciting time because we think about the opportunity it presents for Tennesseans, but the workforce is a critical piece of that. And so at the department, it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we are identifying the potential supply for these companies, not just at announcement, but for years to come, because the workforce development piece of it often happens over a multi-year span. And so we have to make sure that we identify the right talent so there's time to get them trained if there are critical skills that are needed. And that takes a lot of partnership. That takes a lot of workforce staging, I like to call it. But we are certainly excited about what it means. We've seen record low unemployment last year in 2024, and we want to continue that trend going into this new year.
So these two departments have always worked together, but that partnership seems to have grown over the last year or a year and a half. Why is that, Commissioner McWhorter?
Well, from our perspective, and me personally, I just feel that the more that we work together, even in the times when I first arrived, and I have to preface this by saying I was a commissioner of finance administration prior to coming into this role. So I actually, you're in charge of the budget for the governor. So you see how all the agencies work together. And it was a natural for me at FNA to see how economic development and workforce made sense to collaborate. When I came into this role 2.5 years ago, there was some collaboration, but we felt like it was an opportunity for us to engage even more deeply in that. And it really does work hand in hand. I mean, we are a sort of the front-facing agency for the state, so we're talking to these businesses, but if it's not an infrastructure conversation, they want to talk about workforce.
Sure.
And it's only critical for us and important to bring Deniece and her team into the mix in those conversations to address exactly what those needs are. And we have found that has benefited our sales pitch. We've seen success in that collaboration already. Businesses and industry appreciate the fact that we're bringing them to the table early in the conversation, and that we're just seeing the results of that. I mean, it's as we always like to measure return on investment, it is clearly a great return on investment for us to spend that time together and collaborate.
And we'll talk about GovCon a little bit later in the show, but Commissioner, you had the idea that partnership would be a big thing there at GovCon, that maybe, labor and workforce development should have some tracks of breakout sessions there. Why did you think that was so important over a year ago?
Well, first and foremost, I think, it was a public representation of an incredible partnership behind closed doors. And, when we're out across the country, people are asking, well, why does it work so well in Tennessee, economic and workforce development? And we talk about strengthened partnerships, and that's certainly something we have. And I so appreciate Stuart and his team, because they do make sure that we're informed. And so there's all this incredible energy happening behind the scenes. And so we felt like it was really important to really put this out so that Tennessee knew that, these are not accidental encounters, that we are intentionally planning together so we can make sure that Tennessee has long-term success. And so having the workforce tracks really shows, workforce as a part of the key infrastructure. It takes a lot of coordination and collaboration for projects to come together, and not just new projects, right? But existing businesses and industry inside Tennessee. We wanted to give a public display of what that really means. And so it was really incredible to be able to do that.
Was it a hard sell that this has been a long-running event here, and you're saying all of a sudden, hey, let's give this whole track to another department? Or was it something your team was pretty open to doing?
Oh, it was a no-brainer for us. I mean, they were eager to work with Deniece and her team. The interesting thing with GovCon, most of those that attend are local leaders, mayors, county mayors, city mayors, economic development professionals across, pretty much all 95 counties. And we talk about workforce all the time. They talk about workforce all the time. We all understand and agree that it is, the number one or number two issue. And so it just made sense to have Deniece and her team help not only participate, but build the curriculum, put the sessions in there that we collectively felt like the group needed to hear about and ask questions and engage in those conversations. So it's just a really good way. I mean, why should we do it? Deniece and her team should bring all those resources and the intellect to the table in terms of what are really happening, and more importantly, what they're doing. Sure. Not just currently, but where they're going in the long run, because these local partners need to know where to tap into those resources, and that was part of our job, is just open the door for them and let them present that.
Obviously, the partnership with ECD is a key one, but in state government, is it becoming more common to tear those silos down among other departments as well that you need to work with?
Yeah, absolutely. One, I have to say this. I think we are in sort of a new dispensation of how we do business here in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like a forced partnership or forced relationship at all. I think we all are finding that organically we're really built to need each other. And in order to be successful, it will take us really rediscovering what we do and how our work really is proximal to each other, particularly when we're trying to advance things like economic and workforce development. As Stuart mentioned, it's a natural relationship for us. He's someone I have a tremendous amount of respect for. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the work itself. And so when we look at our partners, whether it's in the Tennessee Board of Regents or Higher Education Commission or Human Service, Corrections, all of us really are trying to advance this thing called workforce development. And that takes programs and resources that may operate outside of just our respective departments. Right. And so our governor has created a culture that we all know coming to the table to solve a common problem. It's everyday business for us here in Tennessee to do it that way.
All right, well, this conversation continues right after this. When we come back, we'll take a look ahead to 2025 and some of the different sectors that'll be really hot here in Tennessee. Stay with us.
This is American industry at its best. An economic powerhouse that sets the standard for the nation. Home to global icons and the heartbeat of American craftsmanship and innovation. From Memphis to Morristown, Tennesseans forge with pride and craft with purpose. And at the heart of our success is you. The early risers, the all-nighters, the doers, the innovators, the creators, the risk-takers. Every day, employers like you breathe life into our economy, propelling the volunteer state forward with resilience and resolve. We know that running a business these days is not for the faint of heart. Facing new challenges demands new solutions. But you're not alone. At the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development, we stand shoulder to shoulder with you to support your vision, to champion your workforce, to ensure that you have the resources to thrive. With personalized solutions tailored to your specific needs, we provide expert guidance every step of the way. Whether you're a small startup or a large corporation, we're your trusted partner for navigating Tennessee's dynamic workforce. Just as business has evolved, so has our department. Today, we're your catalyst for growth, providing recruitment support, access to grants and incentives, and cutting-edge training solutions. Because when you succeed, Tennessee succeeds. So to every employer across our great state, we stand ready to support you. Together, we'll write the next chapter of Tennessee's success story as we build, innovate, and shape tomorrow's workforce. The Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development, your force for workforce.
And that is the new Anthem video for the Department of Labor and Workforce Development. And Commissioner Thomas, why did you think it was so important to have that video to showcase the new direction, the reimagined department that is here now?
Well, first and foremost, I think we needed to show Tennesseans what the department has really been up to. And this is an embodiment of that work. In order for us to get workforce development done at the degree by which we'll need it here in 2025, we have to be a force, and Tennesseans have a right to know what that really looks like, and business and industry needs to be able to depend on us. And so this was just a visual representation of all of the work that we've really been talking about. We want to be good partners, not just to our other state agencies, but to business and industry and to Tennesseans who need us, who are looking for career opportunities. So this was really a culmination of all of that work. And we wanted it to be powerful. We wanted to send a very strong statement that we're not the labor and workforce development of yesteryears, that we are out and we're working on behalf of all of the folks that need us here in Tennessee.
And when you're out, Commissioner McWhorter, selling Tennessee across the country, across the globe, what are business and industry leaders saying to you, and what are they saying about Tennessee?
Well, to the point here, we're talking about workforce. That's one of the things that I really want to discuss is what are we doing as a state to prepare whether it's high school, college, even postgraduate, what are the programs, who are your partners, what does it look like for you all? And as you opened up the segment talking about what the governor talks, his sales pitch is the state with the workers are going to win. And so it's a topic that we talk about often. Outside of that, a lot of talk about infrastructure, whether it's roads, whether it's energy, whether it's water. All very important, even more important today, I would say, than ever, because we've seen so many industry across the globe reshoring back to the United States, a lot happening in the Southeast, so there is a lot of demand on those infrastructure topics that they want to discuss, and one of which, TVA is one of our big partners here in our state from an energy perspective, and so we often talk about that. Again, those are the major topics. Of course, all the things that sell Tennessee, whether it's no income tax, low cost, all the things, cost of living, those are all features that these companies are aware of. We talk about those, but they really want to talk about whether they can get the right power amount to a big manufacturing facility or they can get access to the right workers. Those are the things that we often talk about.
Well, you have a good conversation to have there, that's for sure. As we look ahead to 2025, what are going to be the hot sectors that maybe we're just starting back in 2024 to heat up? I know nuclear energy has been something the governor's been talking about. You've been to several forums recently in the last 18 months about that. Is that one of the next big sectors here in the state?
Oh, absolutely. I hate to use the term hot in nuclear, but it will be an emerging sector for us. And I think it's here now, and I think that need will only become greater as we go along, and it's important for us now to really seed the workforce climate to be ready for that. I think we'll continue to see growth in hospitality and tourism, right? I think we're going to continue to see growth in hospitality. We're going to continue to see growth in IT, advanced manufacturing. Stuart talked about reshoring and the impact that has on the workforce. Everything in Tennessee feels hot right now, and that creates a challenge for workforce development, but also an incredible opportunity for the folks that will occupy these jobs, right? And so I think as we continue to look at the data, but more importantly, the narrative that we get from employers, because when you're sitting down with them and hearing firsthand what their needs are, it really begins to help us in ideating and creating opportunities for workforce expansion. So we're going to continue to see those sectors grow. We want to continue to see our labor force participation grow, so we can make sure that we have a supply that mirrors the demand. So we're paying very close attention to that. We know we're going to need to expand our training capacity to be able to do that. Thankfully, we have incredible, technical colleges, community colleges, and universities in our state that can equip our workforce with what they need to be able to take advantage of some of these opportunities. But all those things are on the table, and so there's not much sleep for us in labor and workforce development. But again, that's a good problem to have. And
research and development, is that becoming another big thing here in Tennessee that maybe we haven't seen so much, but that's going to grow in 2025?
It will, and we have a rich history of being a manufacturing state. Across probably about a dozen clusters in our state that have been a priority for Tennessee. What's happening is a lot of these global brands that are making a product or service in our state aren't doing enough research and development in our state. And what we mean by that is we have institutions of higher education, we have other research facilities, world class, like Oak Ridge National Labs, that are in our state. And so we want to make sure, and we're taking the steps to ensure that these companies have awareness around what exists and have a conversation about not only what exists, but what doesn't exist, so that we can try to bring a conversation to the table with the manufacturing industry and our research and development assets and figure out ways that they can collaborate. There's an enormous amount of opportunity there.
Sure.
And so really it's a 2.0 version of economic development for us. It's not that it hasn't existed, we just haven't really made it a priority, because if we compare the research and development spend that industry is making in our state, we're way behind. So we have the opportunity to sort of make a difference there and ramp it up.
All right. Well, commissioners, thank you very much. It looks like 2025 is shaping up to be a great year. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, we gave you a little bit of a preview earlier of GovCon, but coming up, we'll take a closer look at that record-breaking event, and we'll find out which Tennessee city will be the next to host the big event. Stay with us. Lindi Berrones is an assistant commissioner with the Department of Economic and Community Development, and she is behind GovCon, which we gave you a little bit of a preview before, which was back in October, and a record-breaking GovCon this year. How many people were we talking about here?
It was our largest year yet. We had over 800 attendees in Knoxville, Tennessee for our 70th Governor's Conference in our ECD history.
That's amazing. 70 years when you think back. I mean, that is a long time and a lot of different history throughout Tennessee. Why do you think this is something that really people from across the state, and we heard Commissioner McWhorter say earlier, it's a lot of local elected officials and people and business people. Why do you think they come back every year and really want to attend this conference?
They come back, and it's not just networking. We have a lot of community elected officials with turnover. We have a lot of economic developers that get into the business, but it's not just coming and networking and meeting people. It's really about learning the best practices in the business. So, some of our rural communities have had big wins over the years. It's not just our urban communities that have had wins. So it's up to these rural communities and across the 95 counties in the state to hear about what is working, what is out there in terms of our department and other departments to land projects, land companies, but also grants and programs that they can access to develop sites or, Main Street grants or downtown development grants. There's a lot of programs that our department offers communities, and so it's a way for all of our communities all at once to come together to learn more about it.
And one of the big draws, of course, is the governor. The governor is always there. I'm sure he has been for 70 years. It's called the Governor's Conference. And last year in 2024, Governor Lee was there as well. And that has to be a big draw for all these folks to come across the state to see the governor.
It is. It's a huge draw. People want to see their governor. They want to hear about, the governor usually provides an update on the state, where we've been over the last year and where his vision is for where we're going. And so a lot of our communities like to come out to hear a lot more about where we're going and what's taken place.
And it really is, you learn a lot. You say, you talk about these best practices, but there's different tracks and breakout sessions and a lot of great information being explained. Kind of go over what you talked about in 2024 and why you thought those topics were so impactful.
So what I think our biggest change in 2024 was that we invited the Department of Labor and Workforce Development to join us. And it's it's no hidden secret that in our world of economic development, the number one thing asked of us year over year is about workforce and workforce development, especially from our communities. And so this year we invited the team in to put together a whole track of workforce related topics and sessions, which we heard back from our attendees was one of their most favorite part of the conference. Outside of that, we try and do some unique things. We have Tennessee Entertainment Commission under our department, and they're able to put together music and business and leveraging music for quality of life sessions about how to land a project or a company in your community, things like that communities really want to hear about.
And most of Tennessee is rural. We do have the big urban areas, but it's a good chance for these rural leaders to come in and say, hey, you did so great here. How did you do that? And how can I replicate that in my community? That's really key. Exactly.
And I think one thing people don't realize, last year, over 50% of all of our jobs across the state and over 50% of all of our projects were in rural communities. So it's a big thing for us in Tennessee.
So 2024 was a record-breaking year, 95 counties almost, yes, and 850 people. What are we talking about for 2025? Has the planning already started?
It has, and we're trying to go bigger and better if we can. But we're really excited to announce location and dates for 2025.
And from what we're looking at here, it looks like maybe Murfreesboro.
It is. We're going to Murfreesboro. We're going to the Embassy Suites November 4th through the 5th. And we are excited.
I'll write that down, November 4th through the 5th.
Yes.
Great. Well, it's going to be exciting. It's a great conference. It really is. And you learn so much, and you meet so many different people. So we're looking forward to Murfreesboro in November.
That's right.
All right, Lindi, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. And that is the State of Tennessee's Workforce. You can learn more about the top programs and services that we offer Tennesseans at tnworkready.com. And of course, you can find all our content on social media as well. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on State of the Workforce.